5 years ago, I was washing dishes for two different restaurants, making like $12 an hour, lying to my parents about dropping out of college. I went to school with fairly rich kids, seeing them get dropped off in these sick cars when I had to walk to the gym. Like these kids would be in cars that cost more than what both my parents made combined in a year. And the reason I was even able to go there is because my parents made a lot of sacrifices. And today I make over 30 grand a month. I live in what I would consider a pretty nice place. I live in South Florida. I've been able to take my parents on really cool trips. I've been able to stay in some of the best hotels, some of the best Airbnbs. I've been able to make a lot of this possible also for my family. And this is the raw, unfiltered story of how high ticket sales changed my life. So let's take it back, right, to the year 2021. I was in college. I was a dishwasher at two different restaurants. So I'd work in the morning at one, and then the second, I'd work the first one like 8 to like 3, and then the second one would be 4 to around 10, 11. And when I wasn't doing that, I'd be delivering food. So I'd have DoorDash and Uber Eats both open at the same time just to make sure I could get an order. And a good day would be like $100. I think like 160 was like my best day ever. And like I said, I went to pretty rich school, so I would watch these kids pull up in super nice cars that cost like 50, 60 grand, some like a 70 to 80 grand, while I'd be walking to the gym. Every time my dad would ask me how college is going, I would just tell him it's going well, even though I knew I didn't want to be there. Even though I knew I was made for better, but I couldn't make something work, right? It took me 4 years. So from 2019, it took me 2 years of constantly failing and failing and failing at online business to finally make something work and make an income. And it still wasn't an income to be able to afford a place, like a nice expensive place, right? It took me 2 years, and in those 2 years, I tested nearly 100 products trying to make ecom work. And the breaking point came when my sister called me one day on FaceTime, and she just asked me if I was okay. Like, she didn't even do anything crazy. She was just like, "Are you okay?" And that is when I completely broke down and I could not hold it in anymore, right? 2 years, 100 plus products, failing and failing and failing, knowing I wanted to live this kind of life. I wanted to live in a nice place. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do these things, yet I'm stuck in a fucking classroom learning about things I don't care about. And the thing that I am trying to make work is not working, right? So I'd be at family gatherings very clearly not present. My mind is somewhere else. And that's all that I could think about. Maybe some of you can relate because you're in that place now where you know you want to make something of yourself, but nothing's working. And that's all that goes through your mind. And that's where I was for a very long time. Even my mother-in-law, right, my sister's husband's mom was concerned about me. And she was like, "Yo, I don't know what's going on with Nick, but like, I'm concerned with him because he never seems like he's here with us mentally." I was fucked up. And I remember when COVID first hit, I had a whiteboard in my room. And my thing was, okay, we're in COVID, we don't have school, quarantine, whatever. I have X amount of days until the next enrollment cycle to be able to make an income work online. It was like 100 and some days, like 3 months. And every day I would go on that whiteboard and I'd erase the day, 99 days, 94 days. And then before you knew it, it was 21 days. And then before you knew it, school actually started and I still hadn't made something work. Despite putting every dollar I could into ads, despite even having mentors who were pretty fucking good, and the shit that they would do with me, they were doing with other clients, and then it would work with other clients, but we just could not get something to work. Even my mentors dropped me as a client because for some reason we couldn't get something to work. We tried multiple ad accounts. Like, imagine that for a second. Imagine hiring a mentor and you're putting in the work and you're doing everything you can, and then the mentor loses faith in you and they're like, "Fuck, we got to stop working with you because this isn't worth our time anymore," after 2 years. And I'm a big proponent of BizOp. And I've sold millions in BizOp because that was me. I've sold millions in BizOp because I can relate to these people on a different level because that was me. And I strongly believe that one thing always leads to the other, right? Even if the thing that you're doing right now isn't what takes you to the life that you actually want to live, there's some pieces of that puzzle that do. So fast forward, the thing that really changed for me is so I decided that, okay, fuck ecom, fuck dropshipping. I'm gonna sell something as a service. So I decided to sell email as a service. And I learned cold email as a result. Through that, I'm sending cold emails to these ecom brands, trying to sell them email marketing. And then on LinkedIn, I saw a job for email marketing. And I was like, I could do email marketing better than these motherfuckers. I've been doing it for 2 years. And so I applied. And that in itself, it was seeing that job. And also one day I was driving home after dinner with my family, of course not being present, and I saw a billboard that said that they were hiring this marketing agency. It was in Philly. I lived in Delaware. Now, I abused these people. They did not end up hiring me, but I learned a lot from that because I learned that I have the skill set that I can go and get a decent job without having to continue going through school. And so I took what I had learned with marketing and what I was learning with cold email after sending all these emails to all these different companies, and I combined them. And I would cold email executives at these massive marketing agencies to be able to work for them. And the cool part, because it was COVID, is there was a lot of work from home opportunity. So I abused these people until someone finally hired me. And after working my first job, the thing, I was only making like 4 grand a month, right? But the thing that changed for me is realizing that I no longer have to work for $12 an hour. Like, I have a skill set that I can at least make 60 to 70 grand a year. And that to me changed everything. That felt better than my first 30K month, is knowing that I no longer have to work these minimum wage jobs. So anyway, with me saying that everything comes together and one skill set leads to another, I wouldn't have been here if I never tried ecom and it did not work, and I had never done cold email and it did not work. And I had never done cold email and then was able to combine the two, because no one was doing that. Nobody was cold emailing executives at these big companies. I would send them a personalized video of like a selfie of me talking about their company, and I did this manually for a bunch, right? And guys, when I tell you I was literally printing interviews, I was getting anywhere from 3 to 4 responses every like 6 that I'd sent. Like, I was printing interviews left and right. So it took a lot of effort, but this is what was able to lead me into that season of my life. And that season of my life, I was making anywhere from 4 to 6 grand a month. I worked at 3 different agencies. I was able to move out of my parents' crib. I was able to live in Houston. I was able to live in a fairly nice place in Houston. I was only like 22 years old and I had a senior level role. So I did that for 2 years of my life, and corporate taught me a lot. And it also taught me what I loved about business and what I didn't love about business. I realized that what I loved about about the job wasn't even the job itself. It was getting the job. It was the fact that I put together this very strategic video and I had these cold email campaigns, and then I would sell myself on the interviews. Like, this is what appealed to me the most. And so I realized that, and I actually didn't like the marketing shit that much at all, because there was a lot of creative shit that went into it, a lot of creativity. We would be crushing it for clients and they wouldn't really care too much about how well the campaigns are performing. What they'd care the most about is, how does the design look? And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? We're here to make money. So with that realization, combined with what I had been seeing Luke Alexander post about high ticket sales, and I also had a homie who was in high ticket sales. He sent me, I used to always see him posting about closing deals and making money, and I knew that I could do sales because of how much I love to just sell myself, right? Even though I never really had a sales job in the first place. But anyway, I called him and I was like, yo, I want to get into sales. And what do I do? So he sent me a fucking long ass course. It was like 50 hours. And he was like, go through this twice and then let me know. I hit him in 2 weeks. I went through the entire thing twice, and I created a script and I was ready to role play in 2 weeks. That is, even 2 weeks was a decent amount of time, but I really went through the whole fucking thing twice, right? Ever since then, this is what I do whenever people ask me to put them on, is I send them an overwhelming amount of information and then I tell them to go through it twice and then come back to me. And if you can't do that, then you don't have the self-sustainability it takes to make it an online business. And most don't, right? So anyway, he sent me that. I went through it. I hit him. He was surprised that I went through the entire thing in 2 weeks, and I was decently role playing with him. So anyway, he ended up ghosting me for some reason. I'm sure he was going through some shit. He ended up ghosting me, but I was determined to make sales work. And so I found out, how do I get on offers, right? What are the different communities out there? What do I need to learn to actually be able to make a living out of this? Because I was committed to getting out of the corporate world. Now, before I tell you about my first high ticket deal and the exact timeline it took from that to Miami, if you're watching this and want to fast track your journey, I have a couple slots left for my one-on-one coaching. I will help you find your place on the right offer and work with you one-on-one until you can sustainably last on that offer. And if you're already on an offer, I'll help you double your commissions in the next 90 days. So if you're serious about leveling up your sales game and you want to work one-on-one with someone who's been exactly where you are, hit the link below, see if you qualify. You'll speak directly to me at the time of me recording this. Okay, we're back. Camera died, but we're here. So the very first offer that I sold on full time was a biz op. Like I said, I was very aligned with biz op, selling to nurses, teaching them how to start a med spa. Now, before that, I was kind of on offer. It was like part-time though. That's why I don't always consider it my first one. But I was helping basketball trainers be able to scale their business. I worked on that offer with Ben Bader, RIP. And after that is when I sold on the med spa offer, right, to nurses. Now, my first full month on this offer, guys, I had a 3% close rate. Like, literally, I think I had closed one deal out of like 30 calls. I don't even know how I lasted on the offer. The business owner had zero faith in me. In fact, she thought that I should be fired. But my manager, who was also the same person who I said introduced me to high ticket sales, who ghosted me, he like came back, hit me, and was like, yo, I know I ghosted you, but I have this offer that needs reps. Do you want to do it? And I was like, if you're not going to ghost me again. He was like, I won't. And I was like, bet. And we did it. And he saw a lot in me and he had a lot of faith in me, despite her not seeing that. In fact, she didn't think, not only did she not think I'd last on her offer, she didn't think I was meant for sales in general, which is crazy now, right? Now, in this season, I was still grinding my corporate 9 to 5, right? I would do that from 9 to around 6 p.m. And then I would take calls from like 6:37 all the way up till 10, 11 p.m. And I did this for months. Now, this is another thing about when I think about who makes it versus who doesn't in this space. If we fast forward now, he gave me a course. I went through the entire thing twice. It's like 40 to 50 hour course, and I built a script. Now that I'm on an offer, I'm still working my full-time job and I'm closing 6, 7 p.m. to 10 every single day, and then I'm back at it at 9. This was my life for a long time, right? This is the reality of this space. Is this is what you have to go through to be able to at least get the reps in, to be able, like on a decent offer, to be able to eventually get on a better offer. But I knew I wasn't good enough to be on those grand slam offers. And so this was me paying my dues and doing everything that I could. And a lot of the game tape from that offer is what led me into the next one. But anyway, I digress. The moment that I decided, so in my mind, I was like, okay, if I can make what I'm making at my corporate job with sales, then I'll just go all in. Now, this was a broken mindset, because in order to make what I was making at that full-time job, I had to be committed. So I was trying to do that while being half committed. This is another mistake that I see a lot of people make, is you can only be halfway, half in, half out for so long. And for me personally, it completely burned me out and I was not the best person to be around. I was constantly stressed, I was constantly tired, and I was spreading myself thin. Spreading myself so thin to the point that my work at the marketing agency would be suffering. So like the clients wouldn't be too happy with me, and I wasn't closing deals. Again, I had a 3% close rate. So it's like I'm giving my energy to both of these things very divided, and it showed in the results that I was getting. So anyway, at the time, I didn't have a ton, maybe like 25 grand saved up, and I decided to go all in. At the time, I was maybe spending like 3K a month. So I was like 3, 4K a month. And I was like, okay, this is at least enough to last me for the next 3 to 6 months. And this is 3 to 6 months of me having no income. So assuming I'd have no income, but I trusted myself more than that. And that's another thing, right? You need to be able to trust yourself. Now, I know I said that I'm going to get to the 3 mindset shifts, like we'll get there, right? Just bear with me. But you need to be able to trust yourself, right? You need to be able to have faith in yourself that you are going to be able to figure it out, because a lot of you don't have that trust in yourself. And you don't, but like I literally would have to go 6 months with making $0. And I knew if this is all I'm doing full time, there's no way I'm gonna make $0. I also had a very supportive girlfriend who believed in me and told me that there's no way I'm gonna make $0, right? That has to come from within too. Like you have to be able to believe in yourself enough that there's no way you're not going to make it work. And also not giving yourself that chance. I had a 6 month runway. So anyway, I burned the bridge. I went all in on high ticket. I quit my 90K a year job that I was making at 22 years old. And it was only me and these sales calls. After that, I ended up getting on another offer where I shit the bed again. I was like 2 for 60. And around this time, right, is where I invested into myself, which was huge, and the skill set helped me, like learning the skill set and being better. And two, I got on a better offer, which was also biz op, right? When it comes to picking an offer, guys, it's important to see what are you actually aligned with. Like if you've had a crazy fitness transformation, that may be a really good offer for you to sell, right? Like whatever you are going to, like you can actually tolerate talking about for 8 to 12 hours a day. And I saw that even though it wasn't directly with sales, online, making money online, from what I learned in drop shipping and cold email to then working at the agency, completely changed my life. And I learned all that shit through online courses. So I knew that I can be able to sell the transformation of what an online course can do. Anyway, I had the game tape footage to be able to get on a good offer, which is why I stayed on the med spa one for so long. And after landing on a good offer, I had the skill set to be able to sustain it, right? Because yes, the YouTube one was a good offer, but I saw people come and go every single month, and very few people actually lasted, but I was able to. And it was because I had the skill set to be able to last and back me up. And so my very first full month on that offer, I made like 6 grand, which was more than I had ever made in corporate. And then it was consistently 10 to 15 and then consistently 20 to 25 after that. And I was on that offer for like a year. And then I went on to do this in 2 more offers, right? One selling ecom coaching and then another selling life coaching to doctors. So now that you've made it this far, and you understood what it took for me to be able to get here and my actual story, and you don't just fucking see these skylines and cool trips and whatnot and think that that's always been the case and that it fell into my lap. Now that you see that, what are the 3 mindset shifts that I actively had to take in to be able to make all of this a reality? So the first one, I kind of hinted at this earlier, is I stopped making excuses. I stopped blaming the external and I took action. I quit my job and burned the bridges. I wouldn't say burn the bridge because like they don't fucking hate me there, but I left, right? I left my job that I was making comfortable money because I wanted to do this and I committed to it. And I stopped being half in, half out. So that was number one, right? As far as not making excuses and taking action. And then the second point, matter of fact, if you back that up even more, me even getting into the corporate world was stop not making excuses and taking action. And then me then leaving the corporate world, right? So anyway, did that. And then I also took on a $16,000 loan. This is why I shit the bed on those first 2 offers, and then I came in as one of the top guys my very first month on the YouTube automation offer. I stopped making excuses, I took action, and I invested in myself. I invested $16,000 into myself while barely making 4, right? Because I did it at the tail end of the second offer not working. I was like, fuck, I need to do something. And I invested into myself. Now I could have used the excuse of, oh, well, I just haven't been on a good offer, or oh, I don't have the money to be able to invest in myself, or oh, like I'm barely making money now. Like, what if it doesn't work? Like all the things that go through your brains, guys, it goes through mine. It went through mine as well. But just the sheer fact of doing this, of investing into myself, I started showing up on my calls with such a different energy. It was an energy of congruency. Like the things that I was saying that previously I would just get from YouTube videos and like little school communities I was a part of, I'd say the right things, but they wouldn't land because I wasn't congruent with them. And so as a result of me not making excuses and taking massive action, why not have these conversations with these prospects? I wouldn't buy into their bullshit because I stopped buying into it myself. Like I can tell you all the things to say. I give all this also on my channel. Like you really can copy and paste what I do on my channels, but you're not going to be able to deliver it as well. Because the reason I can say these things to these prospects is because I live it every single day. And so I was hopping on calls with a totally different energy now. Someone telling me that they haven't invested into themselves or they haven't taken action because they don't have money. I'm like, what are you talking about? I make 3 grand a month, 4 grand a month, and I invested 16 bands into myself. Or you don't have the time, like, dog. I saved up money and quit my full-time corporate job to be able to make this happen. And before that, I was working 5, 6 hours a day to make sales work. So these kinds of things, they wouldn't hold weight with me because I was no longer telling myself these things. So anyway, number 2 is I developed a healthy disrespect for money. Some of you may call this abundance, right? I had a sales manager who whenever he can feel that someone was being needy on a call, he would like tell them to send somebody money. And he wouldn't make them do it on the call, but he'd be like, send somebody money. I don't care if it's your mom, I don't care if it's your little brother, like somebody. And he really instilled abundance into us. And also my boy Tolu, when I first hung out with him in Miami, just seeing how freely he was spending money and how he viewed money and how his boys viewed money really changed my relationship with money. Because previously, again, my parents raised my sister and I off of like 70, 80 grand a year. And we weren't poor, but we also definitely weren't as fortunate as the kids that I was around. And growing up, money was fairly scarce. So I developed that. Like my parents loved Dave Ramsey as a result, right? Of like helping them get out of debt and whatnot. So their beliefs about money became my beliefs about money. And that would show itself on calls. So I started to release money. I started to disrespect money. And part of that was only taking Uber Blacks. Now that sounds like such a bougie thing. Like you obviously don't need a big ass black truck for just myself, but this in itself helped develop this disrespect for money for me. Because you know, you pull up the Uber app and you look and you're like, oh, I could take the regular fucking shitty Camry for $17, or I could take a black for $45 for the same distance. And your mind defaults to taking the shitty one because it's the cheap one. And so constantly taking the best Uber that you can get forces you to view money differently. Like this is because it's only a few dollar difference anyway. This is the first thing that I would suggest that you guys start doing. And you also just feel like money, right? You're in this black truck, it feels like you're in the limo, it feels like you're the president. Until eventually it becomes normal, it doesn't feel as cool anymore. But that is huge because then that would, and I'm not saying to go be retarded with money, but that would show itself in different ways of actually getting what I want when we go out to eat, right? Like subconsciously at times, I would like, let's say I want the steak and eggs, I'd get the chicken and waffles because I'm like, damn, steak and eggs is $45, $50. Steak and eggs is like 22. Like this type of relationship with money will hold you back. The next thing is paying for tabs with friends. Like I was just in Delaware a couple days ago, right? Seeing my old friends, and I literally paid every single tab except one, like every single tab. And we went out multiple times and I covered it every time and I'm happy to. Like splitting bills with your friends, even now, here in South Florida, when I'm going out to eat, like I will be the one to pay the bill. Or the bill's already paid, someone else already covered it. But this whole thing of splitting bills, it forms this scarcity inside of you. Like, why are you and your boy splitting your $150 tab? Like, just someone pick it up. But again, this level of detachment of money shows itself in how you show up on your calls. Guys, if you are getting the chicken and waffles over the steak and eggs because of a $20 difference, you don't think that this level of scarcity is going to show itself in the way you show up when we're talking about thousands of dollars being on the line? It 100% will. And then number three, and the final one, is I surrounded myself with the right environment and the right people. Like when I had first moved to Miami, paying 4K a month in rent, I was making good money, right? I was making like 10 to 15 and like some months 20, but definitely not enough where it was a responsible decision to do. And then as a result of me doing that, guess what? 15K became the floor, and then eventually 20K, and then eventually 25K became the floor of my income. I started going to nice gyms where dressing well and having nice watches would be the norm, and being in these environments, being in environments where things genuinely were abundant. Like Miami is a fairly, just South Florida in general is like fairly expensive. I live in Fort Lauderdale now, but even here is like fairly expensive, right? Going out to eat, having a nice place, like it's not the cheapest place, but that is now the norm to me. Like I've normalized paying $4,000 a month in rent, which sounds like it's so crazy, but like I don't see it any other way anymore because it's now my standard. And when you move somewhere that's slightly more expensive than what you're comfortable to, your standard follows. And I also like surrounded myself both on social media and in person with people who were ahead of me, not people who would complain about the economy and rent going up and gas going up and food going up. It's like I'd be around people having multi-million-dollar conversation. And it was because I forced myself to be in those places. And I'm still not where I want to be, right? Like I want a nicer place. I want to be able to take my family on more trips and nicer trips and fully take my parents' living expenses. More importantly for you, I want to be able to help at least 100 people this year hit their first 15K month. So far we're at like 5 or 10, I gotta check the tracker. But being in these kinds of environments and living in nice places, and it constantly forces me to push for more. Like I know even at my income level now, there's so much more ahead of me. Now look, I'm not telling you all of this to flex or make you feel bad about where you are. I'm telling you all of this because just a couple years ago, I was exactly where you are right now. I was watching videos with the similar title and thumbnail and shit that got you to click on this, wanting hope, wanting better for myself, even wondering how real all this shit is. But as simple as it sounds, like I talk about all the tactical stuff all over my channel, as simple as it sounds, if you can, one, take massive action and stop making excuses, you develop a healthy disrespect for money, and then you forcefully get around the right environment and the right people, over time, your life will change. And the way you think and the way you view things will change. And you will make more money and you will be able to get the nice high rise in a cool city. Like you will be able to do all this shit. So what I want you to leave this video with is looking in the mirror and asking yourself, what excuses am I giving myself? In what ways am I in my own way, right? What objections do I constantly get on calls and how does that show up for me? Because if you can view your life through a lens of control of I am here because of my own doing, then you are also going to get out because of your own doing. But if you feel like the world is happening to you and things are just being done to you, you will stay there forever. I could have felt that way when I was washing dishes, when I went 2 years without making a single dollar online. But anyway, with that said, I'm done yapping. If you are serious about changing your life through high ticket sales and you want someone who's walked the exact path that you are on right now, hit that link in the description. I will work with you one-on-one and help you find your place on the right offer and also equip you with the skills to be able to actually last on that offer and hit those 10, 20, and 30K months. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.